Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to Dumb Jock. We got a very special episode today. In honor of Raiders Broncos week, I'm interviewing the great Woody Paige. He's been covering the Broncos since the 70s. And I also bring Jake Plummer in here to talk about the rivalry, talk about Bo Nix and what he's doing so far, and what Jake thinks of the performance of Bo Nix thus far compared to what the stat humpers think about Bo. They don't like his performance based on the numbers. Well, we got an actual quarterback here who played the game at a high level who thinks otherwise of Bo. You're going to want to stick around to hear what Jake says about Bo and about the Raiders. But I want to talk with you guys about the Raiders a little bit because for me, it was never hard for me to hate the Raiders. Growing up as a kid in the Bay Area, as I did, you were either a 49ers fan or a Raiders fan. There was a decided split. The Niners were the wine and cheese crowd, and the Raiders were the bad boys who would fuck you up. The renegades, the pirates, the assholes who wore black. And the man steering the pirate ship was owner Al Davis. Al Davis is a legend for his contributions to the NFL, some good, some bad. But in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, Davis wasn't just an asshole, he was a winner. Before becoming part owner of the Raiders, Davis was their head coach in 1963, 64, and 65 when they were in the AFL. He was the AFL commissioner in 1966. Then he became part owner and GM of the Raiders from 1967 to 1971, then principal owner and GM until he died in 2011. Davis went 10-4 as a head coach in 1963, 5-7-2 in 1964. Then the Raiders wouldn't have another losing season until 1981. The Raiders were dominant. His first year as the GM, they went 13-1 and lost the Super Bowl. They would go on, the Raiders, to make the playoffs in 9 of the next 10 seasons, and between 1976 and 1983, they won 3 Super Bowls. That's why the Raiders have this storied tradition. They won 3 in 7 years. 1 with John Madden, boom, boom, and 2 with Tom Flores. But in 1986 and 87, Flores missed the playoffs, and Al decided to make a change. He set his sights on the up-and-comer offensive coordinator of the back-to-back Super Bowl runner-ups, Denver Broncos, Mike Shanahan. Everyone told me not to do it, Mike told me with a smile when I talked to him about it last year. He was recounting his short time as a Raider, and he admitted it was anything but a dream. Al Davis did things his own way. Mike quickly learned that upon arriving, and when Mike wanted to explore the cutting edge of football like Mike did, Davis bristled. For anyone used to modern football, shotgun formation doesn't seem like anything fancy. But there was a time when it was new in the NFL, and no matter how effective it might have been, Al Davis wouldn't let Mike run shotgun. Imagine that. Al also moderated the offensive line protections that Mike was running. During the Madden and Flores years, protections relied on an archaic system of man-to-man. I block you block you, keeping a running back in to protect and help the offensive line when they were threatened. But Mike had identified a new protection called two-jet that slid the offensive line to the defense's strong side, and that gained a man on offense and allowed the running back to exit the backfield and become a receiver. John Madden, now working in the media and still with a good relationship with Al Davis, thought this was crazy. "What is this? I've never seen this before," Madden said to Shanny. "How do you release a back? What is a hot route?" Madden and a lot of other coaches in the NFL had never studied this stuff, so he didn't know it yet. Madden's relationship with Davis was strong, and the two agreed that Mike was nuts. In the years that followed, Madden would apologize to Mike and admit that he was wrong. But it wasn't just the formational stuff that Al Davis wanted control of, it was personnel, both coaches and players, whether it was who would play at running back, Bo Jackson or Marcus Allen, or who would start at QB, Steve Berline or Jay Schrader. Al got the final say. In Mike's first year in 1988, the Raiders were 5-5 going into their game with the San Francisco 49ers, the most dominant team in NFL, squarely in the midst of their dynastic run and coached by the legend himself, Bill Walsh, in what would be Bill's last year with the Niners. The Raiders, coached by Mike Shanahan, found a way to win that game 9-3, but then lost 4 or 5 to end the season to finish at 7-9. Mike was only able to bring in 2 of his own coaches, Ron Wolf and his wide zone blocking guru, Alex Gibbs. Wide zone, you've heard of it, right? A lot of teams run it. Alex Gibbs, whose expertise would end up becoming a staple of the running game that thrives in the modern NFL. You see it every Sunday. Instead of a gap scheme in which the run is designed to attack a specific hole, created by pushing bodies out of the way and running downhill to do so. The wide zone uses synchronized lateral movement by the entire offensive line to get the defense running to and blocking the offense, blocking an area instead of a certain player. I block who's in front of me as I move laterally, which revealed multiple holes and cutback lanes for deft running backs to exploit. This lateral movement off the ball also created unique opportunities for play-action passes that often found defensive players wildly out of position after over-pursuing the wide zone running plays. Tight ends running free across the field. When working together in concert, the run setting up the pass setting up the run, the wide zone running game was a beautiful sight to behold. Line after line of gorgeous gridiron poetry. One of my guests today, talked about him, Jake Plummer, on Dumb Jock, was just that kind of poet. But it doesn't matter how innovative or effective your scheme is if no one is on the same page. And for the Raiders coaching staff, back then, aside from Mike's two assistants, the rest of the coaches were handpicked by Al Davis, including Art Shell, who ran the defense. The coaching staff was split into two camps, and each had its loyalties, one to Shanahan, one to Davis and Art Shell. This caused a level of tension and drama that made focusing on winning football games impossible. It was a marriage made in hell. And so the end, when it finally came, was all but predestined. After starting 1-3 that next season, Mike was fired as head coach of the LA Raiders, thus ending his first stint as the man in charge. You live, you learn. When Mike became the head coach here in Denver, not only had he learned a valuable lesson on how not to construct a coaching staff and what type of owner to avoid, but he also had an understandable disdain for the Raiders organization. And we, his players, embodied it. In 28 regular season contests as Broncos head coach, Shanahan beat the Raiders 21 times. 21. That's 3 out of every 4 against a division rival. Mike used to always tell us, you want to win it all, first, you have to win your division. You win your division, you're guaranteed a home playoff game. You get that, you put yourself in a pretty good position. Take the Chiefs. They finished atop the AFC West for 8 straight years. How's that worked out for them? Pretty good. And now the Broncos have lost 8 straight to the Raiders. That's right, 8. One of those losses was on Mike Shanahan's Ring of Fame induction day, guys, October 17th, 2021. The Josh McDaniels led Raiders came in here and beat the Vic Fangio Broncos 34-24 on a day intended to honor the man who brought the city its first Super Bowl win. This Sunday at Empower is another Ring of Fame induction day, guys. 2 members of the Orange Crush Days, Steve Foley and Riley Odoms, are being honored in front of the whole 77 team and all the fans coming to support them. Let's not make the same mistake twice, huh? The Raiders, though winners of the last 8 against the Broncos, have their own issues right now, well documented. Their number 1 receiver wants out. There's drama with the head coach. But they'll be eyeing the Denver Broncos as a get-right game to fix what ails them. Will the Broncos put a stop to it? They fucking better. Now, let's hear from Woody Paige and Jake Plummer about this storied AFC West rivalry. All right, guys, welcome back to Dumb Jock. I've got a special guest with me today. In honor of Broncos-Raiders week, we have a man who's been covering the NFL, sports, and the Broncos for quite a long time, who's going to be able to shed some light on this rivalry. Woody Paige joining me here on Dumb Jock. Woody, thanks for coming on.
Good to see you.
Yeah,
Thank
you
you
too.
for having me on. You're right, though. I've been covering the Broncos for 50 years, since 74.
Wow.
And so I've seen Raiders and Broncos more times than I really want to during that period of time. And I go back to covering Archie Manning when he came into the NFL because I was working at the time in Memphis, Tennessee, where I grew up. And I don't think I've ever seen a rivalry that was any more mean. Chicago and Detroit, those teams in the Midwest, they had a hatred for each other. But in regard to the AFL, I can't think of another history. I mean, you had the Houston Texans. They didn't have a rivalry with Dallas because Dallas moved to Kansas City
right.
after one season. So I think the colorful aspects of including 1977, which the Broncos are honoring this weekend, the AFC Championship game, and those two games, because the Broncos went on the road. People were uncertain about them, and they intercepted 6 passes of Kenny Stabler. They beat the Raiders on the road. Tom Jackson goes past John Madden, who's the coach of the Raiders, and he said, "It's over, fat man." That one of the most famous, and also that Norris Weiss, a holder, throwing a touchdown pass to Jim Turner, Mr. High Tops, who the last guy maybe to wear high tops other than Johnny Unitas, and a kicker that did a 40 in about 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And and then the Raiders come back to Denver, and actually the Broncos lose their first game of the season, one of only 2. The last game was against Dallas, a meaningless game. That season still stands out for me for those 3 games they played, because then they played in the AFC Championship. And that AFC Championship, which people who haven't been following NFL or the Broncos or the Raiders for a long time, led to instant replays in the NFL because the Broncos fumbled the ball inside the 10-yard line. You couldn't look at it. You couldn't overturn it. And the Raiders, to this day, still believe that they should have won the AFC Championship rather than the Broncos, who won 20-17, pardon me. So that was a meaningful. And
that was 77?
77.
So there've been, well, the Raiders are ahead in this historical rivalry.
About 73 to 52, something like that.
54 with 2 ties.
Well, and people talk about the Broncos
right?
have lost 8 straight games to the Raiders, which is unbelievable. But there was a period of time where the Broncos lost 14 consecutive games from 65 to about 72.
Right.
But the Broncos turned that around in the 90s and the early 2000s. When they would win 5 out of 6 or 6 out of 7, particularly when Mike Shanahan was here. You and I were talking just before we went on the air about Mike Shanahan left here and became Al liked stealing coaches from the Broncos.
Right.
Merrill Moore was a great linebacker coach who was the linebacker coach when the Broncos intercepted those 6 passes. He went to the Raiders as their linebackers coach, and I talked to Merrill this season. He's coming back for the 77. He's the last remaining coach from that team in 77. And he was telling me that the worst experience of his life was coaching for the Raiders since he hated the Raiders so much.
Right.
But Mike Shanahan is in, at that time, Los Angeles. The Oakland Raiders had moved to Los Angeles. And I told you I had a story that I thought may not be good for family TV, but it's okay for this.
Yeah.
I predicted that the Broncos would beat the Raiders and Mike Shanahan 100-0. Monday night game.
Wow.
And so 2 things happened.
What year was this, Woody?
In the 80s.
Okay.
John Elway was quarterback. At one point, John throws a pass that Shanahan recognizes. He's already told the quarterback, watch, this is the play he's running. Raiders get an interception. John is running back down the field, goes past Shanahan and gives him the finger.
John did.
Yes. So I predicted 100-0, and I was doing it farcical.
Yeah.
At the end of the first quarter, it's 24-0 Broncos.
Wow.
Mike Shanahan looks up at the scoreboard, turns to his assistant coach, and says, "That fucker's going to be right." It came back. It was a tied game.
Oh, wow.
Ended up 24-24, and the Raiders won in overtime. Shanahan left there shortly after, came back to Denver. He and Dan Reeves really never got along because Dan Reeves thought that Shanahan and Elway were plotting behind him. They would do a script for the first quarter,
right.
And Reeves didn't like that. He liked starting off very conservatively. So Reeves later fired Shanahan, and a turning point in his career really was going to San Francisco as the offensive coordinator because he was dealing with great quarterbacks, greatest wide receiver all time. He was learning from Bill Walsh, who had been the coach there, and that was the Shanahan system kind of developing and evolving, if you will, from what Walsh had done in San Francisco, and then he comes back and the Broncos win back-to-back Super Bowls. So
Yeah, people forget that he was the offense coordinator in '94 with the 49ers when they one of the best teams of all time, right? Those '94 Niners.
Sure, and he was offered the job by Bolin, who was firing Dan Reeves, and Mike did not want to come back and follow Dan Reeves. He said, "I'd rather stay in San Francisco, learn more about this system, but I don't want to be the guy." So Wade Phillips became the coach, and he was really just a standholder until Shanahan. We're at the Super Bowl in Miami, and the 49ers are playing San Diego Chargers in the Super Bowl. And at the commissioner's party on Friday night, Shanahan attended, even though he was offensive coordinator of the 49ers. He told me that he was going to take the Denver job, but he said, don't write it until the day of the game. And the other thing he told me, he said, my goal is to beat the 49ers worse than the 49ers beat us in New Orleans 55 to 10. So there's going back to the Raiders Broncos series that you had, as I said, dominance by the Raiders early in the two franchises from the AFC. They've now played. They have played 125 times in the regular season, and they played twice in the postseason. Wade Phillips' team was a 500 team and lost back-to-back games to the Raiders. Last game of the season was against the Raiders. Game in playoffs was against the Raiders. They lost both those games, and that basically led to Mike Shanahan coming back. But it's been an incredible series. Lyle Alzado played for both teams.
Yep.
He started his career, was an All-Pro with the Broncos, goes to Cleveland in a trade because he holds out. The Broncos had never renegotiated a contract. And then they trade him to the Raiders, and he has a great finish to his career too. So
Bill Romanowski as well played for both organizations.
I was writing some notes yesterday for a column I'm writing today, and I was trying to think of players who played for both teams. And initially, Alzado and Romanowski came together because Romanowski obviously was a successful linebacker, Pro Bowl linebacker with the Raiders, and then came to the Denver Broncos.
Ashley Lilly played for both?
More obscure.
Yeah, I know.
No offense to
Javon
Ashley.
Walker, did he end up on the Raiders after the...
the running back.
Yeah,
but the
not
first one
old-timers.
was, I'm spacing on his name, but this is before I covered the team. There was a cornerback for the Broncos, and they traded him to the Raiders, and he became a Pro Bowler, AFC, and became a coach later for the Denver Broncos, for the Oakland Raiders. There been only, I would say, a handful. A couple of the Raiders quarterbacks have become backup quarterbacks here, but I think the Madden told me once, and we became really good friends, even though he couldn't tell Al Davis that because Al Davis hated me. I'll tell you that Al Davis quit. So the last game that Al Davis, before he was in really poor health, and I'm at the Oakland Coliseum, and I'm outside before the game is played. His white limousine pulls out upside, and I had known him for as long as I'd covered the team. He gets out, so I go over, and he's on a walker, and he's, as I said, very ill health. And I said, Al, I just want to come over and wish you well and hope you're okay. And he said, you're still an asshole, even at that point.
Hadn't lost his sense of humor.
Yeah. Pat Bowlen was sued by Al Davis at one point. Al Davis, so it extended beyond the fans. But John Madden told me once, he said, it's the only time where I lose a game and I'm leaving the field and the fans are throwing stuff at me from the south stands in the old stadium. And he said, if I won the game, I'd understand that. But I said, you should be celebrating. You should be drinking the beer rather than throwing the full beer cans at me. So
the Raiders were always an interesting play in Oakland in particular. I mean, I was here from 03 to 08, and we were 9-3 during that time. Jake Plummer was 7-1 as a starter against the Raiders. But it was always fun to go there because it was hostile territory. These fans were very passionate.
And I don't know whether you can answer this question for me because I was thinking about yesterday is the Broncos used to tell me during that period of time before and after that they'd always water the field because they felt like that slowed down a much faster. The Raiders weren't a fast team. They were a tough team, but not a team that had a lot of quickness. And players would tell me, you feel like you were sinking about a foot into. I mean, the field was bad anyway.
It was bad. It was a baseball field too. So you had the infield to contend with.
Worst locker rooms.
Horrible locker rooms.
Worst stadium.
Yeah.
For baseball and football.
Yeah. And then when you rolled up a couple hours before the games, the lines for the porta potties were already around the parking lot, which told me how long those fans had been there drinking. And they were some passionate
When they
fans.
moved to Los Angeles, they were playing at Southern Cal, and that was a real tough neighborhood.
Yeah.
So they fit in with that. I thought everybody would talk about the fans because they were wearing those outfits that had spikes in the shoulder pads and stuff like that. When I would park at Oakland Alameda Coliseum and I'd walk through that group, they'd see they knew me from television, and they'd invite me over for tailgates. Those guys were lawyers, and it was like a biker gang that during
Dressed
the week,
up.
and then on the weekend they dress up. Even though the black hole, and everybody said, "Oh, the black hole, that's the worst," because of the appearance of the people.
Right.
They were nice people for the most part. I'm sorry to see Oakland out of all sports.
Yeah.
It's the only community that has lost a hockey franchise. People don't remember the Golden Seals. The Warriors moved over to San Francisco. The baseball team obviously has just left, and the Raiders left for Las Vegas. So I feel bad because I had a great feeling about the people in Oakland, working class kind of people that loved their teams, and they got nothing now.
I'm a native of San Jose, and so, growing up I was a 49er fan, but you had to choose between the Raiders and the Niners. But playing for the Broncos, every time we went flew there, I was flying home. And I developed an affinity for those fans as well. And it's sad to see all those teams leave Oakland. It's funny, since they've left Oakland and gone to Vegas, the Broncos have not beat them.
Yeah.
In the 4 years they've been in
there
Vegas.
or here.
Yeah. Well, what do you think? Are they going to break that streak, the Broncos?
Yeah. You know this a lot better than I do, but they're definitely going to. Well, I say definitely. Adams isn't going to play. He's their best offensive player.
He is.
Would you agree?
Yeah.
Who is their best defensive player?
Yeah, Max
Crosby.
Yeah.
He's talking about playing, but you know as well as I do, again, or better, that he's not going to be at 100%. If he plays, so you can't take the best offensive player and the best defensive player out of the game, or limited defensive player, limited offensive player. Adams wants out of there, wants to go play with Aaron Rodgers again.
It's set up for the Broncos to succeed.
I think with the celebration of the 77 team, honoring Randy Gradishar, the fans are going to be into it. It's not going to be like what we saw two, or even last year, where people are booing or getting up and leaving. These are the Raiders. There have been great blowouts. There have been overtime games. I think this will be a pretty easy game for the Broncos.
I sure hope so. Hopefully they don't take them lightly, though, and prepare for the Raiders'
No,
best.
they're not doing that.
They won't.
Did you? But let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Now we can do it years later. Did you really take teams lightly?
No, never. But when you're talking about the Raiders being in a bad place now, they've been in a bad place every time the Broncos have played them over the last 4 years. Remember, John Gruden got fired before that one game. They've just been going through so much turmoil. It was Mike Shanahan Ring of Fame day when the Raiders came in under Josh McDaniels and just absolutely destroyed the Broncos.
John Elway told me once that he looked at the schedule when it came out, and he'd go, "Yeah, we're going to win that one. Yeah, we're going to have a problem with this one." I think when the Broncos looked at this one, because of the streak, because the Raiders aren't, the Raiders have quarterback problems. They
do.
They have that. I think the players have looked at it and said, "Oh, that's a game we're going to win." But I don't know that I've ever met, and I've met, 1,500 Broncos players in the 50 years. That players go into games. And you're a player. You've written about it. Players go into games not wanting to get hurt, play well.
Yeah.
Keep their place on the team. I don't think they look at whether it be the Carolina Panthers who are coming up on the schedule coming here,
right,
or the Raiders that you go, Oh yeah, this is just a game. I can't believe that. I mean, I do television here on ESPN. I don't ever go into the television show going, oh, "This is going to be an easy day," because I'm trying to keep a place in media.
Well, thanks for joining me, Woody. I know you got a lot to do today, and you got a big weekend coming up.
And I think one of the biggest, because you work with him, but the change of Jake Plummer. To Jay Cutler was not maybe. I believe that was Mike Shanahan's worst decision he ever made, because that was a playoff team headed, I think, of 7-4.
Yep.
And he was just so committed that he was going to make Jay Cutler into the next John Elway. And Jay Cutler was believing that too, because he said, I throw the ball better than John Elway. Guess what? You never saw John Elway. You wouldn't have said that. But thank you for having me on. And I don't say go Broncos much because I'm supposed to be objective, but I think they're going to go.
I like that.
Broncos are going to go.
So do I. Well, that was cool. Woody Paige sitting in that seat right next to me. And now they did a little swippity swap. Now we got a friend of the show, my own buddy, Broncos ex-quarterback, Jake Plummer, back on Dumb Jock.
CGI, AI, whatever you did to create my illusion of me being here is amazing. I got to sit in the same seat. Yeah. Woody Paige, maybe he might have farted in this chair.
Does it smell good?
It's Woody Paige, man. It's like this legend, right? Man. Yeah. The guy just been seen and knows so much about all of this stuff we want to talk about.
Yeah, we were talking about the Broncos-Raiders rivalry because it is Broncos-Raiders week. The Broncos have lost 8 straight games to the Raiders.
What?
Yeah, 8 straight games to the Raiders. Ever since the Raiders moved to Vegas, 2020 was their first year in Vegas, the Broncos have not beat them since.
The Raiders are in Vegas? I keep calling them the Oakland Raiders. It just doesn't sound right to say Las Vegas Raiders.
Well, talk about your experience with those Oakland Raiders, because you were 7-1 against the Raiders.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that.
I do. I remember. The one we lost was the snow game, which was probably my favorite game I ever played in here at Mile High, and we lost that game. But, yeah, we dominated those guys for a while. We were on it.
So we both played for Mike Shanahan, and we kind of understood that there was a hatred towards the Raiders. I mean, he didn't, stand up there and say, I hate the Raiders, guys, but pretty much, right?
I mean, he had a history with them, right? Yeah. He was in the organization. And then you take the fans. Our fans are always like, we hate the Raiders. You have to beat the Raiders. And it's like, okay, what about the other 15 games? But
well, how did you take that? Because, you were the quarterback. You're the figurehead. You're the tip of the freaking spear. So would you embody did you take on the enemies? The enemy, your enemy is my enemy now? Because
you were there, man. It wasn't like I was getting up in front of the team like, we're going to beat these guys. It's the goddamn Raiders. But we just knew the importance of it to the fans here.
But, do you care about what the fans care about? Do you hate the teams that fans hate? Or is it just another game to you?
When I was playing, it was just another game. I mean, of course, you feel the fans and what they're into. I grew up a Raiders fan.
Really?
I loved Marcus Allen.
Oh, yeah.
The dude was the smoothest runner I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I won $2 in the second grade when they won the Super Bowl against my buddy. We had a bet. Yeah, we had a bet we made at lunch. And so I became a fan of the Raiders, and then I read Kenny Stabler's book, and my nickname was the Snake. He was the original Snake. And so, the Raiders were a team that I thought would be awesome to play for. And then I get here, because in Arizona, we would play them in the preseason always because we're so close. But I didn't have any type of hatred towards really any of our opponents. College, there were times that some of the teams maybe rubbed you wrong, like the USC Trojans, where football was invented and everything about the game is started there. As opposed to them. That's what they say. We didn't like them, but afterwards, even U of A, our rival at ASU, it's not like I hate that organization and that program. It's like I'm not full of hate. You know this, but
there was a different. It was a
different feeling coming into that Raider game.
Yeah,
for sure.
Especially going into Oakland.
I loved playing in the Black Hole. Yeah, my favorite place to play.
There's just
nasty people there that hated us.
Yeah,
and it felt fun. It felt like we flashed back to Gladiator days when you were people wanted you to die.
Yeah, rolling in on the buses. Some stadiums would be some people flipping you off.
Yeah.
But Oakland, they would line the buses. It was like zombies at the gate.
Someone said I think it was Rick Lewis was talking about, or maybe Vic Lombardi was talking about going to the Meadowlands, and I was like, that's another place where Giants fans, not so much. Jets fans, oh yeah, you're going to get, they're totally different. And he's like, yeah, some little kid came out and threw his sandwich at our bus. And I was like, exactly. That's the fans, man. Those fans are really, when you go to those stadiums and play, that's fun when you walk out of there and it's quiet and they're leaving and you're like, that's right. All that stuff you said about me, whether it's true or not, your ass is going home, a loser.
And the things they would say about you were pretty detailed because they would do their research. They would know your grandma's name.
They were not nice.
No.
The best was in Oakland. I'm doing pregame warm-ups. And I'm stretching down towards the red zone area down by the 10-yard line, and there's this lady, an older lady, probably 70, looked like someone's grandma. And she's carrying her stuff, and she's scooting through the chairs to get to her seat. And I was just like, I waved at her, and she looked at me, and she said, fuck you, Plummer. You're going down today. And I was just like, oh, it was someone's grandma. Oh, thanks, Grandma. But yeah, they're vicious. They're into it, and our fans are too. Maybe they don't go too far over the edge like some of these places, but the Raiders come to town. It's always a big week, no matter what. Especially coming off a two-game road win streak here. This is it's going to be live in that stadium.
Yeah,
Sunday.
Divisional opponent.
Big time.
It's a alumni weekend.
Yep.
Celebrating the 77 team.
And Steve Foley and Odom.
Yep.
That's really cool that Riley Odom going into the Ring of Fame.
Right. And I don't know if you remember Mike Shanahan's Ring of Fame induction day. They got blown out by the Raiders, like the McDaniels Raiders. It was really ugly. Yeah. And the Broncos just were completely inept. It seems like over the last 4 years, the Raiders have been through a lot of turmoil, so much crap. John Gruden, email scandal, gets fired in midseason. Josh McDaniels gets fired. No matter what, they've been able to get right against the Broncos. They have the Broncos coming up on their schedule when they're going through a bunch of crap, and they come here and they're able to come together and find a way to win here, which has been crazy. And the same thing's happening with them right now. Devontae Adams wants out. He's requesting a trade, and his hamstring's hurt or whatever. Their interim coach, guys are starting to kind of the dissension in the ranks a little bit with Antonio Pierce.
Yeah.
Who was a contemporary of ours. He played in the league at the same time.
He coached at ASU, and I won't get into what happened down there. So,
but
I mean, he was a good player. Okay, just leave it at that.
Great guy,
good
awesome
player, good football player.
Yeah, good football player. So clearly, there's dysfunction there.
Yeah.
And the Broncos probably have an opponent that they can take advantage of, but also you can't think that, right, or else you're going to get whooped. So going into this game, Bo Nix, right? Bo, hey Bo, how you doing, Bo? Bo, you just mentioned it, 2 road victories in a row for Bo. Not easy to do in the NFL. But a lot of folks are saying, hey, man, look at your numbers, bro. Like do you know what the 33rd team is? The 33rd team is like this media company started by Kurt Warner, and they're like former players and executives who analyze stuff. And they got Bo Nix ranked the number 32 quarterback in the NFL right now through 4 weeks. What do you think when you see that kind of a ranking for a rookie who's led his team to a two-game winning streak and a 2-2 record?
If it justifies what Kurt Warner and his crew are trying to do with their time on this planet, then good for them. It means nothing to me. I don't think.
What do you think about Bo?
I think that stat-driven analysts and rankings are, as I saw, I think Aaron Rodgers said something about the stats coaches, and anybody that's into stats, they suck. It's bullshit. And I hated the stat thing. It was one of you could look at the stats and go, wow, he played a great game, but realize that he threw 25 screen patterns that his running backs took for 80.
Yeah.
Or you could see a guy who's, oh man, Bo played horrible against the Jets. I don't think so. I think Bo played absolutely brilliant against the Jets. Why I say that is because he missed strategically. When it's raining, it's hard to throw a ball, and everybody wants to see the best thrower in the rain of all time. You try and throw a football in the rain, Fan or Kurt Warner, who probably had to do it, and he was probably awesome at it. But Bo's misses were not calculated risks. They were like, okay, I'm going to throw this to this guy, but I'm missing where there's no one. And he did a great job of that. And I've spoke about his misses already early in the season down in the red zone. He missed on a 3rd down. His receiver got a hand on it, but it was just outside the reach of the DB down in the red zone. That's a good miss. Don't miss inside, pick 6, miss outside. So I see a maturity level with him that doesn't register on the 33rd team's auto-generated bullshit.
Yeah.
So good for you guys, 33rd. They're just trying to make more money on this stat thing. That's just these guys that have enough money that they could shut the hell up and go do something else. They want to make more money. I don't know why. It's because they don't know what to do. So they're going to keep trying to come up with some algorithm to rank quarterbacks. What a bullshit thing. Well, go ask his teammates how he feels if they think he's the 32 ranked quarterback. Because I feel like his team loves him. His organization likes him. People are starting to buy in here in the Mile High. They're starting to go, oh, okay, I might be a Bo leaver. I might have to go back and think about my relationship with Bo and Luke Duke, because I did like Bo Duke. He was cool. I wanted to be like him, and now it's Bo Nix. So
I might have a Bo Ner. Right?
I hope so. Right. At least when you need it.
Right.
But I don't like the stat thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I hated coming out of a game where we won a dirty, hard-fought victory, and I got fans MFing me because I didn't throw 3 touchdowns for their fantasy football team. Fuck your fantasy football team. We won the game.
Yeah.
There
was a problem.
That's wrong, but it's grown the game,
yeah.
So you can't say it's bad because now there are 14-year-old girls that didn't give a shit about football that are now have a fantasy team, and we're called the Swifters. It's it's making money for the league. It's growing the game, and of course that's great for.
Is it always about growing it?
That's all the NFL is about.
Yeah,
that's it. Expansion, growth, capitalism, endorse sugar, toxins, pharmaceuticals. I mean, it's a really ugly thing, but it's enticing. I sit and watch the games.
The gambling partners too. I mean, it was always stay away from Vegas.
Did they ask us, former players, about getting in bed with Vegas and having the Super Bowl right across the street from where you could place a bet? They didn't ask us.
No.
It was just kind of gross.
There, I was there.
Yeah, it was gross. I thought it was gross negligence on their part to pair up with gambling the way they are, and the amount of people that have been made examples of for being cancers because they bet on themselves. I think you should be able to go as a starting quarterback in the NFL and put down $100,000 that I'm going to win the Super Bowl this year. Why couldn't you? I'm that confident in myself.
The only thing is you shouldn't be able to bet on you losing it.
No bet on losing. But if you want to bet on yourself, you should be able to put money down and say, yeah, I'm going to turn that $100,000 into $10 million because I believe in me.
Yeah,
I believe in me. You can't tell me that some guy on the street now can bet on me. It's legal, but I can't. I'm the show here. So I just think it's a really slippery slope. It's ugly. It's going to lead to. It just leads to.
What already is
bad stuff.
They've made examples out of some players.
Yeah.
A Bronco player, Yeni Uwazurike, got suspended for an entire season and just got reinstated for placing some prop bets. And it's available on your phone, but they're also tracking your phone with the IP address. And if you're at the facility using their Wi-Fi and you place a bet there, they're going back and finding that, and that's how they're busting you.
Yeah, it's two-faced in a way. Because
they're making money on it.
Yeah, the NFL's making a ton of money.
Yeah.
The billionaire owners are making more billions, and they're spitting out players who are making more, but they're still leaving with the same issues of health, mental, and spiritual. Just demoralized. Some of them.
I want to talk about that health, mental, spiritual kind of quest in a second, but I want to touch on something you mentioned about the misses, the good misses.
Yeah.
As a quarterback, when you're throwing to your receivers, your tight ends, how much does a familiarity with the system and the players lead you to take more chances with the ball? Is Bo doing these good misses because he doesn't quite know his players yet and who's going to win these 50-50 balls and whether or not to give him a chance? When he learns the system more and his players more, do you think he will give, those throws will change a little bit?
Maybe. I think I've seen them change already, and it's happened through the first couple games. He put some balls into some tight windows, and it was poorly executed on his part.
Yeah.
And he knows he's athletic enough. He has all of the skill sets you need. We saw that in the second half of the Jets game. Go watch that throw to Cortland Sutton, that deep dig.
Yeah.
That's not an easy throw to make. There's only a handful of quarterbacks in the league that can make that throw.
Oh, really?
And they do it consistently.
He had to back up a little bit, too, because he was getting pressured.
I saw you breaking it down. The backup thing I didn't like. He didn't need to do that, I don't think he had pressure.
I just know who he felt because Garrett Bowles got beat.
He felt a little bit of something maybe coming. But that's also something he's going to grow into and not do that, because that drift might have kept him, maybe made him late if he wasn't, it can make you late.
Right.
Either way, he made some big throws late in the second half, fourth quarter, that put the Broncos in position to win. To me, that's not a 30-ranked 32nd ranked quarterback. Stats won't show you that.
Right.
The first half, he was ugly. I mean, everything was completed behind the line of scrimmage. He broke a record, didn't he, for like completions for negative yards?
Yeah, I don't know if he broke a record, but he ended the first half -7 yards.
Yeah, that's not good. But they were completions. His misses were like, I think, strategic, because he knew it was like, I can't hold this ball. What am I doing? And some of them looked horrible. But then he came back in the second half. He made an adjustment, and he made some big throws.
Yeah.
He made some really good throws. And he did some stuff with his legs that you can't coach other quarterbacks how to do. He just has that innate ability to create something from nothing. And so as he gets to be more experienced and matures and gets the belief of his teammates, it's no longer like, will this player come down with the ball? It's more like, hey, I'm going to give you a chance now to come down with this ball because you're a starting receiver in the NFL. You're one of the best in the world. It's your job.
Right. So
do it. If you don't, then that's you being exposed. We get someone to replace you.
Right. Along those lines, I hear a lot of people in town talking about how the Broncos need more playmakers on offense. And when I hear that, I think, well, these guys are all playmakers. That's why they're here. They've been doing it their whole lives. You have to find a way to unlock their playmaking ability. Do you think that it's about getting different guys here or getting the guys here to play their best?
No, it's getting a coaching staff that understands their players and puts them in position to make those plays, and then the players executing on the field.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, if you're wanting more playmakers, then you mean you want another like offensive passing game coordinator? Those are the guys making the plays. They're drawing them out and like putting the square and the circles and the routes. It's us that get to go learn that play, break it down, see what it looks like against certain defenses, and then an offensive coordinator calling them at the right time.
Yeah.
And then when they call them, then it's on us as players to make that play happen. And yes, there are big plays that are designed to be big plays. Sometimes you miss, sometimes they're big, but it's the plays. I want to see the plays like these two running backs, Williams and McLaughlin.
Yeah.
Dude, they wanted to make some plays. They did make some plays. They were phenomenal in that second half.
Yeah.
Where was the run game before the half compared to after? That makes Bo's job so much easier. That makes everything better when you got guys hitting the holes downhill, running hard, breaking tackles. That's where the playmakers I want to see are, there's three linebackers. Look at him. He broke those tackles. Now he's going for 30 more. Yeah. We saw some of that.
Yeah.
We caught a glimpse of that. But now that's got to be in all the positions. Like, catch the ball. Don't let one guy tackle you if you can avoid that.
Yep.
Try to make that guy miss, because all these other teams, there's dynamite playmakers. Who is it going to be for the Broncos? Don't worry about fumbling the ball. Protect the ball. But if you're going to make a play and you leave it loose and it gets popped out, dude, learn your lesson. But you're trying to make a play. I forgive you. I'm going to give you the ball again multiple times. Like, playmaking is a hard thing. As an offense, if you start trying to force to do it, it gets worse.
Yeah.
It's just got to happen. It's just got to be something happens. And you got a quarterback that can make plays. Why I say that is because he can break containment. He can extend the pocket time, the time with the ball. So now it's work the scramble drill. Get open. Find the gap. Give him a target. Don't run away from him. He's still too young. He's going to throw that ball across the grain.
Okay.
We've seen it.
Yeah. You're talking about the scramble drill.
When he scrambles to his left, don't run away. You run downhill to him if you're running deep. If you're running short route, you take off and go deep. You find a hole. You give him an angle. And if he throws it, then you go make it right. If he throws it and there's two guys, you go make it right by either coming down with it or you break up the play.
Right.
But that ability that he has is nightmares for defenses. Patrick Mahomes is a perfect example. Oh, we got him contained. Oh, damn, look what he just did.
So 2 quarterbacks in the NFL only, and Patrick Mahomes is one of them, started every game for their team last year.
Wow.
Everybody's getting hurt. Even though they create rules to protect the quarterbacks more and more every year, they want that guy to be healthy. He keeps missing time. He keeps getting hurt.
Yeah.
Bo Nix, like you mentioned, really good with his legs, can pick up yards, can make stuff happen. How dangerous is that when, as a rookie, before you've learned to decipher defenses and know when to go with the ball, your instinct as an athlete can take over and put you in harm's way? Would you be worried about that at all as a coach of Bo Nix, trying to keep him healthy, or at least trying to instill in him a sense of, look, man, we know you can do this with your legs, but at some point you gotta start trusting what you see and with your eyes and ditching the ball.
Yeah, I think they do coach a lot of ditching the ball, but I think he's just too valuable. When he's out there, he can make positive yards, and you're going to get hit. but he looks to be a pretty sturdy, well-built young man who takes care of himself. And so you're going to get hit. Hopefully it's not something that hurts you, you know. I played through tons of injuries because I scrambled a lot, and I did get hit.
Yeah.
I love seeing Bo dive out, like not slide.
Yeah.
He'll come up to a couple guys and he'll dive away from him and he'll get those extra couple yards. Yeah, he might get a body on him or somebody hits him. But in this game right now, like everybody's scared to hit the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
You know, we watched that with Shadur, the Hail Mary throw. That guy was like right on him.
Yeah.
If that was a defender in the old days, Shadur would have been blown up before he even made that throw. Watch that play. That guy was so close, and he kind of went up and almost like, I don't want to hit him because if I do, it could be a penalty, and then they get another. So take advantage of that, quarterbacks. Like, learn to dive out and get those extra 3 yards. You slide, they go right when you initiate the slide is where you go down.
Yeah.
You think you got a first, now you're 2 yards short. So Bo has a trait that I had in myself that I loved, that I learned from watching a guy like Marcus Allen, who knew how to not take a vicious full-on blow. You learn to turn your body. You learn to dive away from pressure. Yeah. And I see that in Bo. And so I see different things in his game that are already level and ready to be next level. It's just now a matter of his confidence growing, his teammates saying, hey, man, we give this kid a chance. He's going to do something good with it. And he can throw it anywhere, all over the field. So there's no worry about calling deep comebacks or deep post corners or deep digs or like rolling them out left or right. Like, Sean Payton can get creative now and create more opportunities for plays, big plays.
We talk about Sean Payton. He is a Super Bowl winning coach, had like a multiple years of top 3 offenses, a ton of success with Drew Brees, averaging like 400 yards a game for many, many years. And it hasn't looked that way so far since he's been here last year or the first 4 games of this year, offensively. What are some of the challenges? Because you worked with an offensive genius coach yourself. What are some of the challenge for a quarterback who's maybe an instinctual player dealing with a genius coach who has all the answers?
Yeah, it's tricky, but that's where his ability to, like I said, to miss strategically, I think I'm encouraged by, because he'll take some risks, but he's like learning how to maybe miss occasionally on those risks that don't cause too much harm to the team, but then once in a while he'll start making them.
Yeah.
I never turned down a play I didn't have a chance to make. I mean, that's what I wanted to do. Every snap was going to be the next one. Like that was my game. So balancing that out with Shanahan, I realized if I followed what he put out and his genius and his ability to break it down, if I could remember during the snap and all that of what he told me, it worked. I mean, a lot of times it worked. I mean, the guy he knew what he was doing. And so you have to follow it to some degree, but then when your instincts kick in and you're an athlete like Bo, you can't be shackled. You can't have a coach that's focusing on those 5 plays on Monday saying, this is something we got to work on. We got to keep you in the pocket. We got to keep you making better decisions. Just throw this out of bounds. Like, you know, you might throw a ball out of bounds and it's the last play you ever take. Is that how you want to leave this game?
Yeah.
Not me, man. I threw a haymaker rolling to my left against San Fran trying to throw a frickin' take the top off, and it got intercepted. That was my last throw. And then, of course, Shanahan and McPherson asked me, what were you doing? After a few other choice words of, like, don't talk to me. I don't want you to say anything, because I'd been benched and was kind of riled up.
Woody was just in here, and he said that was Shanahan's biggest mistake he ever made in his career. Was you and Jay.
Yeah,
and I think he'll admit that to this day.
Yeah, I mean, it was a bad decision. I think we know that. Whatever, it happened. It's over.
Yeah.
But what I said to them was, hey, Coach, I was just trying to make a play.
Yeah.
That's it. I think that it's shifted a little bit. You feel it. You know, people are wanting to focus less on the good and more on like what's not there and what's not happening yet with Bo, but like put a sock in it and sit back and watch this kid grow. He's talented. He seems to be a good kid.
Yeah.
And I think his teammates like him.
Yep.
And so right there is the ingredients for a John Elway type person, because John wasn't very good and fun to watch his first couple years.
No, he got benched famously his first year.
Yeah, he was bad.
Yeah.
But they all are. And so if we're getting
let him be bad for a little bit.
If we're getting any good out of this, ride with that, roll with that, and love that. And if he goes and throws 3 picks against the Raiders, don't jump off the bandwagon like, yeah, I knew it, man. It was too good to be true.
Right.
You know, no, like this kid's gonna grow. He's showing me things that I'm like excited to watch this week. I'm excited to see what he can do and see like who else steps up.
Yeah.
Who else can step up? The D's balling. The D is playing some high level ball.
Yeah.
The back end stepped up.
Yeah.
They put their hands in their pockets and started covering dudes, not grabbing dudes. Listen, Champ Bailey, one of the best ever, used his hands, but he knew when to use his hands.
Right.
You can't grab somebody, break up the pass, act like you're the only DB that's ever done that in the world. Look at me, everybody. I'm the man. And there's a yellow flag and act like, what? you grab his goddamn jersey. Get your hands off of him.
Yeah.
You know when the ball's coming. 1,000, 2,000. Get my hands off of him.
Yeah.
Get your internal clock and your skill set going. We're paying you millions of dollars to be that level. We're seeing those guys do that now, which I like to see. Because if you got a good defense, that gives Bo the ability to grow. And like, hey, they were down in the fourth quarter. He took them down. They took the lead. That's a come from behind victory in the fourth quarter for Bo.
Yeah.
First one of his career.
Yeah.
We're going to see a lot more if we keep Bo leaving.
I believe.
I mean, get on the boat. Hop on the boat.
I got a priapism. My boner won't go down. It's. I had to call my doctor. It's been going on for more than 4 hours. Look, man. What is this in my hand here? What is
Don't
this?
play dumb, Jock. Come
What
on,
is this?
man.
Is it? This is a box. It says Umbo. It says
I'll just
MBO. What is this, Jake?
Umbo. I mean, no, we didn't plan this, but we could throw an Umbo Nix on the end of that and create our own bar for Bo. I mean, hey, jump on the deal here.
Boned wagon.
No, we're going to the boneyard.
Oh, okay.
Maybe no.
Play some bocce ball.
How about some Rochambeau, Nix? Rochambeau. I don't know. That's what we called it.
Rochambeau. Yeah. Do you do 1, 2, 3 shoot or 1, 2?
I don't know. I usually go 1, 2, 3, but my kids go 1, 2, 3 shoot.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You have to know who you're playing.
You gotta know. You gotta know the rules. I bet Bo knows the rules.
Bo knows it. Bo Nix, Bo Jackson. Bo Jackson was amazing.
Yeah, he was.
Bo knows.
Haven't been a lot of Bows in the sports world.
He's got the shortest name in the history of the NFL. Ty Law, and there was one other one I saw on the TV. Ty Law and God dang it, I'll have to think of his name. Will something. 6 letters or 5 letters.
Yeah.
5 letters only. But he's got a short name, but he's going to have a long career. And you can all have a long boner around Bo Nix's career if you want to.
There. Talk about this Bo, though.
That right there, I'll boldly say, is the best tasting, most functional bar on the market. There are a lot of good bars out there, but none of them with 2.5 grams of non-psychoactive functional mushrooms in them.
Okay, so you functional mushroom. What the hell is a functional mushroom?
We have to differentiate here in Colorado because you remember when we were working with Charlotte's Web talking about hemp, everyone's like, I don't want to get high, man. I hate being high. Like, no, the hemp does not get you high. It's non-psychoactive. Psychedelic mushrooms, psilocybin in particular, is a hallucinogenic. In microdoses, it can be used. You don't hallucinate. It can be very beneficial for a lot of different disorders we're dealing with in our society. So I macrodose functional mushrooms. I take a healthy dose of these every day because it's a food group we stopped eating.
And that has nothing to do with psilocybin. It's not going to get you high.
It's in the same kingdom. So like the kingdom of fungi.
Okay.
Well, I call it the queendom because I feel like it's sort of like the mother of all creation.
But the effect on your body, your consciousness, your mind, does not mirror
It's
that.
non-psychoactive. So psilocybin's going to take you on a hallucinogenic journey if you take too much.
Right.
Like 2.5 grams of psilocybin in a bar, you would probably want to be with some good friends in the woods or chilling somewhere comfortable where you could sit back and see what shows up. And there's
this bar, I don't need to be in the woods with friends to eat.
Yes, you should be in the woods with friends to eat.
You know
it's
what
a
I'm
great
trying to say.
energy bar and it's awesome on a trail.
But if I'm just in my car driving and I'm hungry, I can eat this.
Yes, we sell those at REI.
Okay.
And Lucky's and YogaPod and direct to consumer on getumbo.com.
Yeah, getumbo.com. We'll put that across the screen there. Getumbo.com if you want to get some of these bad boys.
Yeah, and we should start a code for Guerilla Sports.
Yeah.
If you want. So you tell me what you want it to be. GS15.
GS15 sounds great.
Guerilla Sports 15. Use
Yeah.
that. But first off,
GS15.
I could sit here with you, Nate, and we could talk about what mushrooms are in that bar and in the dairy-free bar and in our tinctures and in our capsules, and we could have a 2-hour-long session, and people would go, what did he just talk about?
Right.
But you could go to our website, getumbo.com, and sign up for our newsletter, and we have a functional mushroom playbook that's designed to break it down in a format easy to digest that talks about all the mushrooms we're putting in our bars that are all legal, sold at Whole Foods, Sprouts. There's so many functional mushroom brands out there. We're one of them that are geared towards active people using their mind and their body, basically athletes.
Yeah.
We're forming a team of believers, team mushrooms, of people that want to come and feel better, function better, and take health into their own hands. But our playbook will break down what cordyceps does for you as an athlete, what lion's mane can help you with, reishi, what it can do for you with your nervous system, turkey tail for immune health, gut health. It'll break it down so that you can digest it. And if you feel like it's something you want to incorporate into your daily routine, it's just like eating your vegetables. It's just like eating your fruits and taking care of your body. This is just another form of compound-rich organisms that are really good for you.
This should be just part of your diet.
Yes.
And not just for your gut health, but your brain as well.
For neuronal growth and repair, for your lymphatic system, your digestive systems. These are time-tested organisms that have been used for centuries in China, Japan, in Eastern medicine. You won't have a doctor here probably say, hey, you should try some of Jake's reishi and lion's mane for your sleep issues or your anxiety. But I will say that I've seen people benefit from them, from that combination with that exact diagnosis. So I can't make medical claims, and I won't, but I know that they've helped me a lot, and I get calls and emails from numerous people that are feeling the benefits of these, functioning better during the day. Some of these are gourmet mushrooms, shiitake, lion's mane, oyster. They're amazing gourmet on a plate. You can cook them up and eat them as a meat substitute.
Do you do that?
I eat a lot of mushrooms. They're amazing. I love shiitake mushrooms. I grill some up almost with every meal and put them on whatever I'm eating. And the more you can get in your body, the better. We are a company, and you're probably thinking, oh, yeah, Jake wants us to buy that because he can make more money. I retired a long time ago and gave money back to the NFL, if you don't recall, because I have plenty to live on. I want to do this because we're doing some cool stuff like the research we're doing with some former players.
Yeah, I was going to get into that a little bit because, you and I both care a lot about former players and what they are going through because they're our peers. We've all been through a lot. That transition is difficult. And it's not just former athletes who understand a difficult transition where, your identity gets pulled away from you. All of a sudden, you feel like you're alone in the wilderness. You develop some really bad habits. And next thing you know, you look up, it's 5, 6, 7 years later, and you are far from home.
Yeah.
And how do I get out of this?
That's a good way to put it.
You have a variety of physical ailments. You have a variety of methods you're using to deal with those physical ailments. Maybe addiction becomes a problem.
You could be bankrupt and divorced multiple times.
Right. And like anyone who's been through these sort of transitions, and we know teammates and you can find yourself in a really bad place. So a lot of the research you're doing and the things you're talking about is to help those guys, right?
Yeah, I mean, you really have been a huge catalyst for this for me. I mean, as we've talked and you've introduced me to Charlotte's Web and the health that I gained from that, and then just the way you've approached all of the talk around concussions and CTE and player health, really, like real former NFL athletes finding health. How do they do it? I'm not sure there's a plan in place.
Right.
So what we're doing is trying to get the data. And to do that, you have to do the research.
Yeah.
So I had a group of guys here locally that have been willing to participate for a few months. We have a month left, and we're going to get the data from using, lion's mane functional mushrooms to help reverse cognitive decline and physical dysfunction. That's what we're aiming to have some progress or initiate a path towards that. Because CTE, whether you believe in it or not, if it's real or not, it really is just a name that a doctor came up with. And they want to say that we're doomed to have it if you have concussions, but there are more than just football players that have had brain issues, TBI, minor injuries, concussive injuries. So this is something as we work with athletes in our culture, as we were on Guerilla Sports talking about Bo Nix and Broncos, like people listen to the sports thing. And so if we get athletes and former players, a population that is a lot of them suffer, some of them are doing well. And those 25 are on TV every Sunday.
Right.
Those guys, they seem like they're doing well because they're painted up and they're in there and they're doing it. But even some of them are struggling. Oh, yeah. They're struggling with their weight. They're struggling with their inflammation. They're struggling with pain, forgetfulness, sleepless nights. Yeah. This is all something that can change with just better water, better sleep, and a better diet. Yeah. Let alone introducing something like a functional mushroom into there that can now start going into your body and using its adaptogenic properties, meaning it's going to take stuff that's out of whack, either a low functioning adrenal system and a high functioning whatever, and balance them out, bring them back to homeostasis, sort of like what the hemp did.
So the mushroom goes into the body and searches for the trouble, and then kind of troubleshoots your internal system.
I don't know what it does,
Is that
man.
What you're saying
I don't
to me?
know.
It kind of sounds like it.
Listen, we know that turkey tail's great for your gut health. It's got prebiotics in it. It goes and helps your immune system. It's an immunomodulator. What does that mean? That means it's going to help your immune system function better and function with better ability to fight off pathogens and fight off viruses and stuff. It's proven. In Japan, they prescribe Crestin, a pill for cancer patients that's polysaccharide Crestin, and it's in turkey tail mushrooms. It helps with your T cells, your white cells. It's a badass that goes into your system and will help kick out shit that's not supposed to be in there, that you're probably putting into it out of a bag of Cheetos and out of a box of Bud Light while you're watching the game, and you're wondering why I'm not sick and why. Oh, there's Dan Marino. He's talking about drink Pepsi. Oh, there's LeBron. Drink Sprite. These motherfuckers don't drink that. LeBron James is not eating Cheetos and drinking Sprite or eating KFC, but they're going to get paid to endorse that. And then the masses go, well, yeah, it's okay for me, as you go, and all of a sudden you can't get out of your chair. Like, what the hell? There's a way to take this into our own hands. And if I have to make people mad at first and break down some walls and have more people join, because there are people joining, to get this message out, that's what I'm here for. I mean, I love talking sports and I love seeing you, but you are the reason that we're talking about this. Like, you kept me on this path. You made me think about the concussion settlement and about getting all those brain tests and wondering, do I want to know how jacked up my brain is, or do I want to go heal it? And know that if I put intention into some of these things and I go about my life the right way, I can live a long time and live healthy and not have to look forward to all the stuff we're being told that's down the way for us as a narrative for former players. So if we can reverse that, man, that would be great. That'd be great to go on to the pearly gates or wherever you go to the next iteration, like to have done that here in this time allowed. Yeah. I mean, football was just a tiny part of what I'm doing now. Like this it was a way to get me the respect and get a voice and get to be able to open some doors.
Well, the first day on the job in football, they hand you a helmet. That's not a good sign. Right, your head's going to be in danger. Not a lot of jobs do that, right?
That's a good. Well, maybe a hard hat if you're working building construction.
But the guys telling you what to do, they're not wearing the helmets. Nope. You are.
Yeah.
And this is going to be dangerous for your brain. It is dangerous for your brain, and all of us were afraid when the CTE and the concussion stuff came out. But I always wondered, can you heal your brain? And you're doing the same kind of wondering in this, and you're actually taking matters into your own hands to try to figure that out through data. And listening to you talk, Jake, the last 30 minutes, your brain is doing pretty fucking good, man. And so we appreciate you coming in. You're always you're a FOTS. You're at FOTS. You're a friend of the show.
FOTS.
And you're also a FOM. You're an FOM.
I just want to be
you're a friend of mine.
I want to be a thoughtful thought.
You are the thoughtful thought.
Thoughtful thought. That almost sounds dirty. I appreciate that, Nate. And there are days I don't feel great. You know, I mean, my body, I took a lot of hits. Yeah. I played in a few years. I took every single snap for a 13-3 organization. So I know what it's like to feel pain. I know what it's like to feel that. My body feels good except for a few little areas. But I'm working on those because I think I can heal myself.
I've seen you improve.
I believe it.
I've seen you get better and better and better and better year over year. Not just physically, but cognitively as well, as your friend.
Well, thank you, man.
And so continue that path. always come back and join us. And like, you know, not just the Umbo stuff and not just like the off the field and the care that you have in your heart for former players, but your football knowledge, man, and your Bo Nix freaking perspective, because people need it.
I like to be able to pull my PhD out.
Yes, exactly.
As a quarterback, because
Yeah.
you know I'm not
Sometimes people
cut from the
forget.
same mold as some of those other quarterbacks.
Exactly,
are.
and we love that about you.
And I think it's not anything I'd like tout or hey, look at me. It's just the way I was raised to think thoughtfully, to think outside the box sometimes, to be open to engaging in conversation with you and other like-minded individuals to make you really think about this stuff. Like deeply dive into it and say, wait, are they really telling us what we need to know? And like, why is there not a plan for you and I to have money from this mega billion dollar industry to pay for my yoga and my acupuncture and my health? Because I'm really, and you are too, like a walking example of what they want in the world. They don't want guys with walkers and canes and cancers and all this stuff. They don't want that.
No.
So let's help them find a pathway there.
Yeah.
Let's just do it. And that's what we're doing, man. And it's like, this is the catalyst. So check it out, because that bar, if you eat it and you don't like it, I will give you your money back. In fact, call me. I'll come throw the ball with you and make it up somehow. If you eat that bar and you're like, this is disgusting, but be honest.
Yeah, you're not going to. It's freaking delicious.
Because there's a lot of bars out there, and I've tasted a lot of them, and there are some where I'm like, gross, and they don't even have near the amount of goodness in them that 2.5 grams of functional mushrooms have. So give it a shot, and you know, I don't even need a thank you, but just know that you're out there curious and open-minded. That makes me happy.
There's a lot of goodness in this bar, and there's a lot of goodness in you, Jake Plummer. So thank you for
too,
coming
Nate
and sharing it with us today. I'm Nate Jackson, and you know him, FOTS, Jake Plummer, friend of the show. This was Dumb Jock, Guerilla Sports. See you guys next time.
Peace, love, and mushrooms.
Later.